This is the Relevant Podcast.
It's episode 1142, and it's the Relevant Podcast here in Orlando. I'm your host, Cameron Strang, and joining me from Loverland, Virginia, is Jesse Carey.
Hello, hello.
From L.A., from Social Club Misfits, it's Marty.
What's that?
Our managing editor, Downtown Emily Brown, will be joining us next segment for a Relevant Buzz, and Derek Miner is running late because he's on a call. So the show must go on.
With whom?
He'll join us here in a moment. Anyway, let's see. This is a Friday show. This past weekend, I haven't talked to y'all really since the highlight of my year, NBA All-Star Weekend happened.
Oh, okay, that's your highlight?
No, it's not. It's always a disappointment. I think it'll be really a highlight.
Rough.
It was terrible. It's getting worse.
Can I ask
every
one question
year?
that everyone's talking about this one thing, and I did not watch it, but they're talking about how when Steph Curry was shooting, that some guy kept making a comment, and they're like, I can't believe this guy decided to cancel his whole career off this one comment. He kept repeating. What happened there?
Kenny the Jet Smith, he's a commentator for TNT, former NBA champion, point guard for the Houston Rockets. He and Reggie Miller, who's famous shooter from the Indiana Pacers, were doing the color commentary during a special event on NBA Saturday night, which was like the Rising Stars competition, and then a skills challenge, and then not Rising Stars, that was on Friday, sorry. It was the skills challenge, it was the three-point shooting contest, and the dunk contest. In between the three-point contest and the dunk contest, they had a special event where the two best shooters in the world, Steph Curry and Sabrina Ionesco, she plays for the New York Liberty. All right, well, Derek's here. Hey, Derek. Derek just joined us. The show must go on. We already started without you, buddy.
Hey, what up?
We're talking about All-Star Weekend. So Sabrina, I think her name is Ionesco. She plays for New York Liberty. She's the best shooter in the WNBA. So they had a one-on-one competition, a shootout, to name the all-time best shooter, right? So she goes first. She is shooting a WNBA ball from the NBA three-point line, okay? And then Steph was going to shoot an NBA ball from the NBA line. So what they were saying during the thing, Steph ended up winning. She did amazing. Yeah. She shot better than the guys in the three-point competition. Yeah. So she did great. Kenny was talking during the competition like this is rigged against Sabrina. We should level the playing field and have her shoot from the WNBA line, which is a little bit closer, and then Steph has to shoot from the NBA line. Just like in golf, there's two different tees. It acknowledges the physical differences between men and women and arm strength. Okay, that's the point he was trying to make. Reggie was then making a joke about like, why are you trying to not say everybody's equal? Why are you trying to make it girls' rules versus boys' rules? Why don't you just let it be equal? And Kenny was like, I'm for Sabrina. I'm saying this is putting her at a physical disadvantage. Like she shouldn't be having to do it. So it was totally misconstrued.
That's because Reggie is a goofy. Like I watched that whole thing, but I'm like, Reggie, you're just making hot takes. Like they were just wild hot takes for no reason. Like logically, if the woman has played college basketball, pro basketball with the same ball and at the same length, she's definitely going to be at a disadvantage shooting with a heavier ball from further away. That's not.
She shot with a WNBA ball, but she had to do it from NBA distance.
What Kenny was saying was, let's let her shoot in her normal environment, right? Yeah. And Reggie tried to make it set because he said, well, she could shoot with a heavy ball from the same distance that Steph was shooting from, creating a hot take out of something that isn't even hot take worthy. It's just logic. If I've done something my whole life and I'm in a competition, it makes more sense for me to continue doing the thing that I've done my whole life the way I've done it. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. If they don't need to have the All-Star Weekend in Indiana anymore and let Reggie, because Reggie's gonna have to do the announcing, because he was the most annoying part of the whole thing. No, it hasn't been there in like 20 years. But
what a weird place to be too.
Indiana's a huge basketball town. Like, sorry, yeah.
No, they move the All-Star Weekend every year to pretty much whoever has a new arena or a big new whatever that, the NBA cities will bid for it.
Yeah.
So next year it'll be in LA for the new Clippers arena, and then it'll move to that's how it moves around. So Indiana, they host Final Fours, they host huge Super Bowls. Yeah. So they thought it would be a good town. Dude, it was snowing. It was gross the entire time. The funniest thing to me was during the actual All-Star game, they did like the celebrity cam to like show like the stars are out for NBA All-Star game, whatever. And there's always huge stars. Literally, they showed a couple of retired players, Guy Fieri and Bill Murray. That was it. That was it. Nobody wanted to go to Indiana for All-Star Weekend.
Babyface was there. Like he was the biggest draw. I do. Speaking of hot takes on All-Star Weekend, okay. Yeah, I'm a long-time dunk contest fan. Okay, ever since I was a kid, and the dunk contest goes through these ebbs and flows where you have like the Michael Jordan years, then you had the Vince Carter years, then Dwight brought it up a notch, and then there was
Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine in 2016.
Yeah, but it goes through these massive dips because here's the thing. There's only so many ways to dunk a basketball. Okay. I mean, I think we've established that at this point. Like, there's only so many ways the human body can contort itself and put a ball through a rim. So what the dunk contest has become is basically just people jumping over stuff and dunking a ball.
In-game dunks, jumping over things. That's basically what this year's was.
It started years ago with Blake Griffin jumping over a Kia, right? Like as part of a Kia promotion. The person who won this year jumped over Shaq. Okay, even Aaron Gordon's year, he jumped over the Magic mascot stuff on a rotating hoverboard with a ball in his hand. So that's what the dunk contest comes.
Like
so I've been thinking about this. Yeah, and I've been thinking about this a lot since the dunk contest.
Dude, Marty, this year they had one guy who was regular height put another guy on his shoulders to then hold the ball and they jump over. They had Shaq come out. Then they had Kai Sinnott, the little streamer who's like 4'3" anyway, sit in a folding chair, and he had to like jump over him, and like was just like nothing. Anyway, everybody was jumping over stuff and then doing very disappointing dunks. They thought the wow factor would be I jumped over the thing.
So here's the idea I had as I'm watching this and just realizing what this has become is that, we're in a golden age thanks to streaming. Like streamers are always looking for cheap content that people will binge. So we're in a golden age of like novelty game shows like Floor is Lava, Is It Cake? Yeah, Wipeout, stuff like that. We are in peak novelty game show. So I have an idea for a show that I want to sell to Netflix. Okay. It's called Will They Make It? And here's the premise of this show. The contestants are just random people, okay, that apply to be on a game show.
Right.
And each round, those people have to jump over stuff. And if you make it, you go to the next round. It's last person standing. So here's some stuff you jump over. Like a shopping cart full of groceries. A person driving around on a go-kart.
Okay.
Several large wedding cakes. Some are for distance, like a kiddie pool.
That's a good one.
Maybe two
Food
kiddie
is
pools.
always good. The risk of getting dirty is always good.
Yeah.
How about this? A live pony. Hold on, real quick. Those. When you go to the mall and like for some reason like the master Lego person is in town and they build like a landscape of New York City.
Yeah,
you got to jump over one of those. Maybe like Washington D.C. because they have Washington Monument right in the middle.
You guys ever been to Fuddruckers with a big piece of meat that's hanging in the window? We're going to put that, and they're going to have to dunk on it too.
A collection of very valuable antique lamps.
Jesse, we literally cannot do this because you're going to injure somebody. Like, bro, like that's the whole point. The reason why the All-Star game is trash, and the reason why all this stuff is trash is because everybody's on a break from their season. Like, I think these players would much rather just be at the crib and just chilling. Mm-hmm. I think the way you fix the dunk contest is you put street dunkers in it.
Yeah, the Instagram dunkers. Like dudes
that's how you fix it.
And I agree. Just like non-NBA players do, because
I do
NBA
like
players
the idea of the Antique Roadhouse combining with All-Star Weekend. And, it's like, hey, this is a $20,000 antique that you now have to dunk over. Blake Griffin.
Like a grandfather clock. That now, but what about even just All-Star Weekend aside? What do you think of this game show? Would you guys watch?
Without a
Will
doubt.
they make it?
Oh, without a doubt.
With street ball players? Yeah. Because that would be fun.
No, just random.
Judge on the...
No, you're still. He's not going to say you have to dunk it after. He's just saying, can you jump over it? Regular people jumping over things.
No dunking. There's no dunking.
That's even better. Yeah, for sure. There's
no set either. It's just an open warehouse.
Regular Joe Schmoes.
It's just open.
Regular Joe Schmoes too. Just like me, us four should be on the first show.
That's what I'm saying.
100%. It's like Floor is Lava. Floor is Lava is just random groups of friends.
Yeah. And the show set is just like a small sidewalk runway that you just sprint down. And then there's the shopping cart with like live lobsters in it that you have to clear.
At Publix, the little thing.
A huge terrarium.
The very end, like a tiebreaker, is we bring one of those small trampolines just to make it like one up it. So it's like, all right, now this is even higher. And this regular human has to jump on a mini trampoline.
Here's the idea for that. It's like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, where you every once in a while you can phone a friend, but you only can use it one a game. You get one mini trampoline you can use per game.
I like it.
That you can bring out at any point.
Those mini trampolines, though, like that the dunk, during halftime or, timeouts, they'll have little dunk teams at NBA games. They'll run and they'll go off the little, trampoline to do crazy dunks, spins and flips and all that stuff. I was at a Magic practice at one point, and like the dancers and the mascot were practicing stuff, and they had one of those set up on the practice court. So they had the big pad, to fall onto, and they had the little thing. And I said, "Can I try it?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's harder than you think. You have to hit the angle right. Because what you naturally run up and you want to do, you're running full speed. You want to like jump on it with 2 feet. Well, the problem is it's angled back. So what you're going to do is you're going to bounce away from the rim. So what you have to do is like a skipping stone. You have to like jump and like ricochet yourself forward, but off the thing. Practice. Right. And so like the first time your knees buckle, I mean, it really is a thing because you got to get the feel for it. Yeah. Your body just collapses. So I did it. I was able to do it like at the practice gym, and like I didn't like do a flip or anything. I just got up like above the rim and like dunked it. It was crazy. But if you don't get the angle right, you're going down like
imagine the show. The host wheels out. The host wheels out like a couple big cactuses and just rolls around. All right, you're gonna make it. Like you can tap out now. Let's do this thing.
It starts to become like Road Rules versus Real World type situations. And we have broken glass here. Oh, okay. No. Who can jump over it? Fire,
guys.
Like Jesse Scott with the walk of fire. It's like fire, and then they had to jump over that. I like that one too.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I would have enjoyed watching the NBA mascots do a dunk competition more than I enjoyed that. I think that's cool. This year.
And then they take off the mask. It's like, who is it? The masked singer, the masked dunker.
Cameron, you know Mark Burnett pretty well. Mm-hmm. Can we get him on and I can pitch this idea?
He is the competition reality show king with Amazing Race. And we can do it.
I spent literally minutes thinking about this. So one round is a classically trained elderly cello player just sitting calmly playing cello, and you got to clear him. Will you make it? Will you?
Man, it's going to be that. I like it. We're just going to call that show Injury. Just call it Injury. Don't call it Will They Make It. Call it Injury.
What would you call it? What would you really call it besides Injury? What would be a great name?
He said, Will They Make It?
Injury or...
You just get a random 43-year-old guy who just works down at the Amazon delivery factory. He's out there. He's got stretch. He's running. He's gonna pull his hammy like before he even gets to the jump.
That's the point. I think that's
I got a better name for it. Hold my beer.
Oh my!
That's the name of this show.
That's a good one, man. Jesse, you honestly, one thing I noticed about Jesse, he always comes up with a good game show.
He's an idea guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's an idea guy.
Don't ask for the execution because I'm not prepared.
Notice in this, he asked me to ask a producer to follow up on it. Not that Jesse's going to.
Cameron. Call him now.
I don't have time to do that. I'm generating ideas.
You're too busy.
I don't see what's. I'll let someone else figure out the things like that. I just want the recognition and the monetary reward for it. I would like other people to do the actual work.
Yes, that is a good way to live life.
So I think that's fair.
Well, we have a great show in store for you today. Coming up later, we talk to pastor, author John Mark Comer. It's one of our favorite faith leader guests. He has a new book out that we talked to him about. You don't want to miss that. Also, at the end of the show, we have your feedback, but we did a curveball that you don't want to miss. But stay tuned right now. Emily joins us for Relevant Buzz. You're listening to Crosses. The song is Invisible Hand.
Season 4 of The Chosen is in theaters now, and the reviews that count are in.
Amazing. Did not disappoint.
Flurry of emotions. It was powerful, heartbreaking, uplifting.
You have got to come and see it. It is a message for everybody. I highly recommend that you come out and see The Chosen Season 4.
Episodes 1 through 3 of The Chosen Season 4 are in theaters till February 14th. So visit thechosenriseup.com and get your tickets now. That's thechosenriseup.com for tickets today.
Okay, it's time for
Relevant Buzz.
Please welcome to the show our managing editor, Downtown Emily Brown, to tell us what's happening this week at the intersection of faith and culture. Hey, Emily.
Hey, y'all.
What's going on this week? Oh, show them. Show them.
Oh, it's not.
Show them.
What?
It's not lit up, but I'll put it on my wall.
She got a neon sign.
Hey.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
Love it.
For those who can't see it, it says Madam Web.
She got a neon sign that says, "Hey, y'all."
Yeah, I was going to say it's a neon sign of, ironically, there's a new bar in town called Hey Y'all. But she happens to have a new neon sign.
She just ransacked it, yeah.
No, I have a sign on my wall that says hello. And Cameron makes fun of me for it all the time because it's on the wall that, like, when you leave my apartment. And so he's like, it should say goodbye, not hello. But
as you're going out the door, she has a sign that says hello. And it's like, as you come in her apartment, you see nothing. As you leave her apartment, it says hello. It makes no sense. I was like, maybe you should just add another
Hobby
one
Lobby
and say hello,
did not
hello.
have a goodbye sign. They only had the hello sign when I was buying decor. I was kind of blame it on Hobby Lobby.
So this is how it went. It was staff meeting yesterday. I was like, well, maybe you could get another one and could say hello, hello. She goes, no, that's Jesse's greeting. I should have one that says, hey, y'all. So I go on Amazon. They have hey, y'all neon signs. And I was like, it's perfect. You could put it right there. It'll be in your background. And then when you're sitting on your couch and you're watching TV and you have the guys over, you'd be like, hey, y'all, like, come join me on the couch. It's all greeting. Hey.
I'm about to go on Temu and find me a what up, though, neon sign.
Exactly.
I know they got one. Look,
have you guys bought anything since that last convo last week? Because I've been looking.
They got me. They got me.
Good things take time.
Dude, this hat that I'm wearing, I got on Temu. $2.
I bought like $70 worth of stuff, bro. I ain't gonna hold you.
It's gonna be outrageous the amount of stuff you're gonna get there.
You got 70 things for $70.
Yes, it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
It is an online dollar store. That is what Temu is.
And it got me.
It's crazy. It's like, I wonder about, I need some new slides. Let me check out this.
Right now they're selling the Trump shoes on it right now. The gold ones, they sell that on Temu. They're like $100. They're just a fake version of whatever
I
they
saw
have.
Someone call them the Jan 6, and I thought that was really funny.
The January 6s is crazy.
All right. All right, what do you have, Emily? What's going on?
For clearing police barriers.
Jumping over the police barriers. They help you
straight up. I was gonna start adding to it, but I'm like, I'm not gonna. Emily has to do her thing.
By the way, that is a round in the upcoming game show. Hold my beer.
Yes. I was gonna say that, and I was like, I'm not gonna take away from what Emily's about to say.
Emily, I came up with a game show idea called Hold My Beer, where average people have to jump over stuff. That's the game. And
so you wear these shoes and jump over a barrier, a steel barrier,
like
and try to dunk.
I like it.
This is terrible. Right. This is awful.
Wait,
the January 6th available now, only $3.99.
Before we get going, we do also have to address one thing. Marty and Jesse, did y'all plan to match today?
Yes, we did. We texted, and we took.
He was supposed to wear a hat. He wore a beanie, and so
he had to
improvise. He wore a teeny weeny beanie.
Yeah,
he said that he had it like it's a big full size beanie, and he had it like the tall way, and that all of his Gen Z coworkers are making fun of him for looking like a 2000s PacSun mannequin. So he tightened it up.
Yeah.
So he tightened it up.
If I saw you in the wild, I would avoid you.
They thought he was a barista. They didn't even know he worked there.
This is ridiculous.
Someone at work said, "Hey, how's the new job at Tilly's going?"
Oh man, that's
savage.
Rough.
Just walking in. You're just like, my head was cold. I needed a haircut. I threw on a teeny weeny beanie. Leave me alone.
I grabbed this on the way out of the door. There's nothing but savages here.
Got it from Temu. You're good to go.
I'm older than most of them by 10 to 15 years, and they bully me. How does that work?
It's great. All right, Emily, what's going on this week?
Yes. There is a new study that came out this week called the Global Faith and Entertainment Study. It's from the Faith and Media Initiative, and the goal is to find out consumers and decision makers' perspectives on how current entertainment media treats, themes of faith, religion, spirituality. There's a lot we could dive into. It was a really, really interesting study. But the biggest one that caught my eye is that 82% of Americans said it is important that the entertainment industry improves their portrayals of faith to make them more accurate. So 4 out of 5 Americans think entertainment media does a bad job portraying faith in the right way.
Of course, that is absolutely true. I'm shocked that 80% said that they want to see more faith in entertainment when, what was it we said a few weeks ago, 40% of Americans have no religious affiliation. The nuns, so it's like, it's interesting to me that like people who say they have no faith affiliation want to see more faith in movies. It's strange.
Well, so that is a good point. The study, it did talk to people like religiously affiliated people, obviously like Christians, Jewish, Muslims, but they also talked to the the non-religious affiliated. So it spoke with nuns and atheists and agnostics. So they could also be arguing from their side of things like, well, we want the way that Christianity is portrayed, that's not our experience with it. So they're kind of on the other side of the coin saying
they want to see it more negatively portrayed in media. Yeah. I got it. Yeah.
So it's kind of but basically everyone mostly agrees what's on TV now is not accurate one way or the other.
Yeah. Wearing they do a church service and the guy's wearing a Catholic priest collar. There's a black gospel choir behind them, and then they have like people who look like jars of clay leading the worship band. It makes no sense.
It's an amalgamation.
No sense.
Yeah. They're casting a wide net here. Yeah. That's the whole goal.
It's a potpourri of religion. Yeah. All right. What else?
Last week, Cory Asbury shared a really powerful and vulnerable story on Instagram. It's the true story about what inspired his song "Only Jesus for My Pain." And it's just not the story that you would expect from a Christian artist, I'll say. We've got a clip of Cory telling this story, and here it is now.
Bad kid growing up, I was doing all the bad stuff. I was drinking, smoking, girls, the whole deal. And I didn't really get saved till I was 19, so I did all this stuff when I was a kid. And started smoking weed when I was 13 years old or something. I got real bad back pain sometimes, mostly from stomping Zach Williams in basketball. It kind of hurts afterward, A chiropractor, my doctor guy, was he's like, bro, you need to try marijuana gummies. And I was like, my G, that ain't for me. I did that stuff when I was a kid, and he was like, no, trust me. So many people that I know were like, nah, man, I don't want to do it. Just try it. I'm real analytical in my head. And I just think I have to try everything, right? And I've tried so many things for my back and nothing's ever worked, right? So one night I get these gummies. I don't know what they were. I think there was 50 milligrams or something, which apparently is a lot. I didn't know that, but he was like, take 3/4. I was like, all right, bro, sounds good. So I take the gummy. I don't even tell my wife that I took it. And we're watching The Office. And all of a sudden, just everything is so funny. I'm just dying laughing. Everything is so funny to me, dude. And she looks at me, she's like, you took the thing, didn't you? I was like, yeah, I did. And then I go to the bathroom, and in our bathroom is kind of a pattern like this on our, the tile or whatever. And I'm looking at the tile, and I'm sitting down to pee because I'm like, I don't even know what's going on, bro. Already I know something's wrong because I'm sitting down to pee. I see all that. I see that face. I see you. I'm sitting down to pee, which was a red flag to begin with, dude. And I'm looking at this tile, man, and I don't know if y'all ever experienced anything like this, but I got stuck in the tile. I was so confused. I was freaked out. And all of a sudden I come out of the room and it's dark, it's nighttime, So out of our bedroom is a hallway, right? And the hallway is super dark because all the lights are off. And this is where it got bad, it got real dark at this point. I looked out into the hallway and I felt I don't know how to explain it other than this, I felt like I got sucked into the darkness for an eternity. Like legit, it felt like forever. It felt like my entire life played out before me, like the worst anxiety and fear, and like I don't even know what to explain it. I don't know how to say it. I was so scared and I was freaking out, like just freaking out. I was crying my eyes out, and I had anxiety. Like I felt anxiety. I was so scared for the rest of what was happening. And I looked at my wife, and that was in the middle of her dealing with that postpartum depression and anxiety. And I looked at her and I was like, I know how you feel now. And I kept saying over and over, I just wanted it to work. I just wanted it to work, man. I just wanted it to fix me. I just wanted to feel better. I just wanted it to fix my body. I wanted it to fix the pain. And I wanted it to fix me so bad. And in the middle of it, it did not fix me. In fact, it made my life considerably worse. All of a sudden, something hit me. I just kept saying, only Jesus for my pain. Only Jesus for my pain. He's the only one that can touch it. He's the only one that can either fix it or not fix it. See, here's the deal. I might get healed, I might not. But Jesus is right there with me. He's in the middle of it with me. He's walking with me through the whole thing, you know. And I was crying my eyes out saying, only Jesus for my pain. And like this little song just came to me. I was like, oh, dang. It was a revelation. It was crazy. And we just wrote this song. I never shared that because
I never heard that.
Yeah, most people would be scared. They'd be like, okay, this guy definitely is not Christian. I get canceled all over the place.
Hey, you know what I appreciate about Cory is that at least he was honest enough to tell that story. Like you never hear that because we're afraid to be that honest.
That's why we wanted to bring this up. It wasn't, what do you think about medical usage of marijuana or THC? That's not the point. The point is his transparency and vulnerability. And he said several times, as you heard, listener, you know, like during the thing, like self-deprecatingly saying, I'm going to get canceled all over again for this, you know, just being honest about the story. But he's like, this is my truth. And this is what led me to this song. And I love the transparency. I wish more people would be honest about that real human element.
Well, especially people who are, and not to get on a soapbox here, but especially people who are in professional ministry. Yeah. Like, I think all of us know people or have known where they will do and say things away from the spotlight that they would never, you know, they would be terrified if like their congregants or social media found out. And it's like, dude, one, nobody really cares anymore about you. This is the human experience, right? Like, because it creates like it creates this like fakeness that isn't authentic to not just that person, but what it's like to be, you know, a follower of Christ in the modern world. Like, at least it's like, hey, can we just destigmatize a whole bunch of stuff that we know everybody deals with or, you know, behind closed doors will kind of talk to their friends about? Like, you know what I mean? Like there is this, like that whole industry has created this unintentional two-facedness because I think a lot of people feel like there's monetary incentives to hide part of their true selves, or you know, they might lose part of their influence. But at least it's like, look, you know, I would tell my friends this story, so I'm just going to tell other people. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that is, in my opinion, a positive thing.
I think per usual that Christians are having their Christians are always late. And I think per usual, we're having our 2020, 2021 moment in faith. Like we're ramping into it. Like I feel like in 2020, 2021, when quarantine was happening, the rest of the world was just like, forget it, throw it. All bets are off or whatever. And I feel like we're finally coming into that place where the church is kind of ready to have more open conversations. I think it's because the bubble's shrinking a little bit and it's not as curated anymore. Like we've kind of had our wounds open for the world to see. So I think now people are saying, well, hey, since all bets are off, let me just be honest, because I think my honesty may actually help people. And I think that this is a great time. I've been saying this for the past year. I think that the world is ripe for revival with honest faith. I think that the people that are going to lead the next generation are going to be the people that do what Cory just did and said, hey, let me be vulnerable really quick and tell you that, hey, this is how God met me in this moment of craziness, right? So,
Jesse, do you remember that we would like be planning out the next issue of Relevant? We'd be in the hot tub. We'd be super high on heroin. and we would just be talking about.
I do. It was
such a strong drug
time.
to start.
Bro, you went from 0 to 1,000.
That's
a hard drug. Whoa.
It was very concerning, and there was an intervention.
But we were honest about it. At least our inspiration,
That's how the psychedelic issue started every October.
All right. What else do you have, Emily?
Last thing, super quick. If you are a fan of 2010s indie pop, get excited because Vampire Weekend has dropped not one, but 2 new songs from their upcoming album, Only God Above Us.
All right, Vampire
and they'll be
Weekend.
heading out on tour later this spring. And Cameron was actually telling me their first tour date, they're doing something really interesting.
So I was listening to, they have a show called Time Crisis with Ezra, whatever his last name is, on Apple Music every Sunday, right? And so I just happened to be in the car listening to it on Sunday. And they were talking about this album, this release, this tour. Well, their first date they booked is April 8th? 4th? 8th. April 8th. Because a couple of years ago, they looked at the calendar knowing that they would be releasing, a new album around now, and they were thinking about touring or whatever. And Ezra's 40th birthday is April 8th. It just coincidentally. It was one of the band members went to the last solar eclipse, like out in Utah, where you could see it totality. And he said it was like life-changing for him or whatever. And so they just on a whim in the tour bus one day looked up, when's the next total solar eclipse? April 8th. Wow. They looked at the path of totality. It goes from like Vermont down to Austin. And they decided to go on every city during the path of totality and look for an open air amphitheater. And so they found one in Austin, the Moody Amphitheater. They booked it for Monday at lunchtime. And that's when the solar eclipse is happening. And they are literally going to be playing a show at like noon at open air amphitheater. Right when the solar eclipse happens, they're going to stop for the 4 minutes, let everybody soak it in, and then they're going to continue their outdoor concert and then celebrate his 40th birthday that night. I was like, how genius is that?
Can I ask you this?
Yeah.
Were they hanging out with Cory Asbury when they came up with this idea?
I love to listen to A-Punk while watching the solar eclipse.
Best idea. We need to figure out when the next.
It was interesting to me is like they were very intentional that the new music that they're making and the music that they'll be playing leading up to that moment, and like they've really thought for years about this experience that they want to create. And I think that's interesting as an artist. I was like, we have 2 artists on this podcast. It's like the foresight. He's like, man, if we had thought of this like 2 months ago, we couldn't have gotten the amphitheater. We literally planned this out 2 years ago. Yeah. And like envisioned the experience that we're all going to have together. I just think that's interesting from just a creative experience standpoint.
100%. That comes with the maturity to understand what you do and how, like, I think when you're young, I'm not a fan of any artist that's under 21. I don't want to hear what you have to say. Nothing that you could say.
Well, Olivia Rodrigo just turned 21, so she can now fall into your
I don't even catalog. I mean, she the guy she writes with's like 40, so she's good. But I think that I think that like the maturity. I think personally, music is kind of shifting to have more of a mature feeling because I think hip hop has become so like it's really made it watery and it's like what are people saying? And people really do want content. They want something that they could take with them and share or something to connect to. So that is just maturity, musician at its finest because they're thinking ahead. Like young artists aren't really thinking like that, but they're trying to create this experience. I'm all for it. I now want to hear these songs.
Yeah. Facts. Well, we'll play one in the next break. Yeah.
I think it's interesting too. Like, I feel like I saw this on a TikTok the other day, but people were talking about there's a lot of new younger artists, typically, especially ones that blew up on TikTok. They don't really have like a stage presence. Like they don't understand like how to create like a concert experience. They just get out, sing their songs and then walk out. Like I think it was the video of Ice Spice at like some like a Spotify best new artist. And it was rough. And people were like,
DJ. It was just a little small DJ board, and that's all it was. It was just like one little laptop, and it was just you could see a picture of it just plugged in. There's nothing to it. It's just, believe it or not, the last 2 years, like we stopped getting booked as much because these new guys are blossoming and they're doing so good. And then we started getting booked even more in 2022 and 2023. And I was like, why are we like all of a sudden getting everything? And when I would talk to a lot of promoters, are like, I try to get a lot of these new guys. They don't even have a 25-minute set. All their songs are 1 minute and 39 seconds. Yep. And it's a little bit, and they don't have any type of message, and they don't even know how, but they have, their Instagram is like tons of hundreds of thousands of followers, but they're only good behind a camera, in front of a camera. They're not good in front of 75 hundreds, thousands of people. So
a live show is an actual art. Like, it's not like making content, and a live show takes as much time as developing your music career in the studio. Like knowing how to feel the crowd out, knowing how to create moments beforehand. Like, it's a whole art. That's why some people are great live, but they're awful in the studio, and vice versa, because they're two different muscles. They're not the same muscle. So yeah.
Ice Spice is bad in the studio and live, so it just kind of works out. Just kidding.
But the social media part is also a muscle too. So I mean, she's figured it out. Like,
yes, she's great.
She's figured out how to make money. All right.
Yeah, listen, she's in the box during the Super Bowl. We're all hanging here doing bottles.
Talking about
her.
Do
you think that was like a press thing? Do you think that was a press thing, by the way? I mean, Cam, you probably know.
It's always.
Like her being with Taylor Swift, and like, was that like all planned? What do you guys think?
They're supposedly friends. They've done a song together, but
yeah.
So they,
Hollywood.
In
friends.
theory, they're friends, but who knows? I'm very curious to see what Taylor Swift and Ice Spice actually have in common.
Exactly.
I feel like every camera optic is curated mostly. I mean, when you say Cameron, like a lot of the camera optics are curated at the AllStar games and all those things. They're not going to leave that up to chance, right?
I mean, Guy Fieri knows what he's doing when he shows up to the AllStar Weekend. He knows where to sit to get on camera.
He's got that maturity thing. He's good.
The cameraman said, "There's nobody here. Who's here?"
Guy Fieri's like, "Hey guys."
My wife had a really good observation when we were watching that, and they cut away to Guy Fieri several times. She was like, "He's just stuck with that hair for life, right? Like, he has no choice."
Him and Ellen DeGeneres.
Because if it. Yeah, because if he cuts it, he's not recognizable.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter. Like, this is it for the rest of his life,
unfortunately. All right, well, that'll do it for Relevant Buzz. Make sure to check out relevantmagazine.com every weekday, where we are better if there were no ads. You can do that. Head over to relevantmagazine.com and sign up for Relevant Plus. For just a couple bucks a month, you get this podcast ad-free. You get ad-free unlimited reading at relevantmagazine.com, including the full podcast and magazine archives, our beautifully designed digital issue, and a little more. Check out all the info right there on the Relevant Plus tab at relevantmagazine.com. Well, our guest today is John Mark Comer. He's a pastor and author of books like The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, and his latest, which just came out, Practicing the Way. We talked to him about the importance of discipleship in our spiritual journey and what we often get wrong about discipleship. Plus, he shared a few practical steps we can all take to become more like Jesus. That's a good goal. Here's our conversation with John Mark Comer.
In your latest book, Practicing the Way, it's about how Jesus discipled his apostles and how that's still relevant to our lives today. What was it about discipleship that piqued your interest in the first place?
I think my whole life, this has been the animating question, as I think about the last few decades of my life and work. I remember when I first read a line from the philosopher Dallas Willard. He said in his book, The Great Omission, the greatest issue facing the world today, which is a huge statement, by the way, there's a lot of issues facing the world today, is whether those who are identified as Christians will become disciples, apprentices, practitioners of Jesus. And we live at this bizarre time in church history where there is the weirdest dynamic where in the cultural milieu of Western American church life, you can be a Christian without actually being a disciple or an apprentice of Jesus. And, you know, for all of the talk about how America is increasingly a post-Christian nation, which you feel in some parts of the country more than others. I grew up in Silicon Valley, spent the last 20 years in urban Portland, Oregon, and now I live in LA. So all I've ever known is like 1 or 2% of the population is a Christian. But then there are other parts of the country where, you know, most people you meet. I was in Texas recently, and I was chatting to this guy, and he said, well, here, you know, every single person you meet is a Christian. And I had no category. He said it would be very rare to meet a non-Christian. That's how I feel about it. It would be very rare to be walking around LA and meet somebody and have them say, oh, I'm a follower of Jesus. Very rare. So it's more true in certain parts of the country than the others. But still, for all of the talk about how post-Christian America is that you really feel in LA, still 67% of Americans identify as Christians, self-identify as Christians. But a number of independent surveys, and it's really hard / impossible to measure a person's level of devotion to Jesus. But a number of surveys estimate that about 4% of Americans are actually following Jesus. And that doesn't mean they are the next Francis Chan or Mother Teresa. It just means they are following Jesus. They are disciples of Jesus. And that gap between the 67% and the 4% is where that's the shadow out of which so much toxicity comes. And so I think my life, as much of my work, I think in hindsight, sometimes you understand your life better on the other side than on the front side, has been to do whatever I can to heal that gap. And so that's a big part of why I wrote this book.
You know, those statistics are shocking to hear at first, but when I think about it all, it kind of makes sense. Because it's essentially the difference between someone saying they're Christian and someone actually living their life after Jesus, right?
Well, and it's really important to clarify that the Christian versus disciple binary there, that is intentionally provocative. Life is not that. People do not easily group into one of two black and white binary categories. Certainly I do not. But even if you were to, it's not a measure of spiritual maturity or even of certainly not of moral superiority. It's a measure of spiritual devotion. So if you look at the disciples of Jesus in the four Gospels, especially early on, they are walking train wreck half of the time. They are narcissistic and violent and arrogant and selfish. I mean, they are not the saints, you know. But they left everything to follow Jesus, and they were literally walking behind Jesus and stumbling every 3 minutes, but walking behind him and listening to him and learning from him and trying to be like him. And that's the measure of a disciple. It's not the level of spiritual maturity or even moral development. It's the measure of kind of lifestyle commitment to apprentice under Jesus.
I've noticed you use the word apprentice synonymously with disciple. Is there a difference between those words?
No difference, just a different English translation of the Greek word. So the Greek word that was used by Jesus and the gospel writers and Paul and the New Testament writers is mathetes, and it literally means learner. But we don't translate that way, partially because the Western style of learning or model of education is a very enlightenment information based. So a learner or a student is another way you could translate mathetes. We think of a college or a university where you go to class 3 days a week and you sit through a 50-minute lecture and you take notes and you memorize the right answers and there's a test at the end And if you pass it, you get a grade and a certificate at the end. Like, that's not the model of learning. The model of learning was more like apprenticeship. Not more like, it was apprenticeship, just like a plumber is an apprentice, or an electrician, or even like a medical residency where they're learning a skill, not just a body of knowledge. They're learning like how to do heart surgery or how to, set a broken leg. It's an actual embodied skill, not just a set of knowledge that you pass or fail on a test to move on. You actually have to know how to open somebody's heart up and repair a broken valve and put it back together. It's actually, you have to become a kind of person and develop a skill to do that. That's a different type of learning. And so learner is the most literal translation. Most English translations of the Bible translate it as disciple, which is a beautiful word, but it's not a word we use a lot in our culture. And so there's two reasons that I like the translation of apprentice, and that's the one I use mostly. One is because I think that apprenticeship is like following Jesus. The model of learning is an apprenticeship model, and it gets us out of that kind of Western evangelical information-based model. Discipleship is learning Christian doctrines by reading a book and listening to sermons, into a holistic life, body-based being with Jesus, becoming like him. And the other reason is, I think, on that note, because disciple isn't used anymore, discipleship isn't used outside of the church, we import meanings into it that aren't actually there. So, for example, most people think that discipleship is when older, wiser Christians meet one-on-one or one-on-3 or one-on-12 with younger, newer Christians and, quote, disciple them. And I think that is a gross misreading of what the word means, what it meant in first century context, how Jesus used it. Jesus did not invent discipleship. That confuses Jesus and the 12 and what he did with the apostles with what he did with his disciples, which was a much larger group of people, at least 120 of them, men and women. And so there's some reasons there that I like to use the word apprentice, because it makes you stop and think, wait, what? What is he saying? Does he mean? Does he not mean? And so that's why I use it.
I'd love to know, once someone realizes that they haven't quite been living as an apprentice of Jesus, what are some practical steps they can take to work on that spiritual formation?
We all start from different places, so there's not a generic answer there. There's a couple principles. If you think about, most people in America are exhausted, stressed out of their mind. Most people are addicted to their phones, and most people are overbusy, and most people are radical individualists who are living like radical individualists, which is to say they're living like normal people in America. And so a couple of entry points that are the necessary next steps for the vast majority of people, but not all people, would be to combat the exhaustion, would be to begin with rest, to begin with the practice of Sabbath, which is, we could talk about that for hours. But wow, what a revolutionary way. And I think for many people today who are so exhausted, so worn down, for most people, any serious effort towards spiritual formation starts not with effort, it starts with rest. It starts not with work, not with adding in, but with subtracting, taking out, which starts with slowing down, not with speeding up. It certainly does not start with adding a bunch of spiritual disciplines on top of your already overbusy, stressed out, maxed out life. It starts with Sabbath. For the many of us that are distracted and addicted to our phones, it begins with a real attempt at digital discipline and really beginning to take seriously a life of prayer, and prayer of the more contemplative variety, of embracing things like silence and Lectio Divina, just the prayerful, slow, unhurried reading of Scripture with Jesus, and sitting quietly before God and really having firm boundaries around our relationship to our phones and digital life. For the radical individualist in all of us, it starts with most of us with, unless if your church is very, very, very small or you're in a house church, with saying, Sunday worship is just a beautiful and essential thing. But to really be spiritually formed, we need to begin to foster small scale relationships that would be more church around a table in the sense of like a community of people doing life together around a literal table, and just those 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 at the most really close relationships, long-term, deep, vulnerable relationships where you can confess your sin, you can bear your burdens, you can share your soul, you can know and be known, you can love, you can forgive, you can be hurt and grow through it, forgive and return. Those kind of deep, vulnerable, beautiful, hard, difficult, rewarding relationships are the next step. And most Americans, 50%, 54% was the last study I saw of Americans have no intimates, no people that know them deeply. And so for at least 54% of us, that's the next step. So those are a couple of big categories that come to mind: Sabbath, prayer, and rhythms of prayer, and deep relationships. But again, there's no formula to follow. There's no list of to-dos. There's no boxes on a to-do list that you need to check off. Those are just some very common next steps. I think the key for people listening is just, what's the next step for me? You discern that in prayer and in community. What's the next right thing that God has for each of us?
That was John Mark Comer. Make sure to check out his brand new book, Practicing the Way. It is available now. All right, stay tuned. Up next is your feedback. You're listening to Mac Brock. Song is Magnify. Today's show is brought to you in part by The Chosen. Season 4 of The Chosen is coming to theaters nationwide on February 1st, and this season has everything: clashing kingdoms, rival rulers, and when they're threatened by the reality of Jesus' growing influence, religious leaders do the unthinkable, choose to ally themselves with the Romans. As the seeds of betrayal are planted in opposition to Jesus' message turns violent, he's left with no alternative but to demand his followers rise up. So get ready, Relevant Podcast listeners. February 1st is the big release day. Go get your tickets now at thechosenriseup.com. Okay, it's time for your feedback. So last week, we asked you a totally different question than what we were about to bring. We asked you, we were talking about those shirts, and we were talking about boating guys. And we asked you, what is the thing that people get into and it becomes their whole personality? The responses were so boring and uninteresting. We decided to completely ask a different question on social media this week. So Emily tweeted out a couple days ago, what's the best prank you've ever pulled or experienced? Wow. You guys hit us up. You guys replied, and here's a few of our favorites.
So Anodylus says, we were mad at our homeboy decided to go on a date to the movies instead of kicking it with us. So while he and his girl were in the movies, we wrapped his entire car with plastic wrap so that they couldn't get into the car when they got out. We wrapped it thick too. That's guys are menaces.
That's because he's not going to have a knife on him to cut through the plastic wrap. They're stuck.
See, I feel like there's an age where you associate pranks with just borderline vandalism. Look, we threw eggs at this person's grandparents' house. What a prank. No, it's no. Grandpa's out there, washing it off the next day. Yeah. They didn't do it.
Won't that mess up the paint on the car? I mean, I'm not a car guy, but
if you leave it during the sun, yes. If you leave it during the sun and the plastic kind of melts and there's weird warping, yes. At night, during the movies for an hour,
Greg says when he was in college, he received a package from a state he'd never visited from a sender whose name I didn't recognize. The box contained an urn full of ashes and a letter asking me to take care of Aunt Irma May.
Wow.
Oh my God.
That's great. Guys, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody,
he just assumed it was a prank. He just assumed it was a prank, not a postage.
Steve Noel just says invalid. Our question is invalid. There are no good pranks, and I'm leaning on the Steve Noel side of things.
Steve was pranked hard, probably.
Hard.
That's
He's got some trauma wounds from some childhood or youth pranks. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. He had his house vandalized, and he doesn't.
Or
he
his pants were pulled down in front of the school or during an assembly or something. You know.
He's like, not only are pranks not cool, but I don't trust the postage system. I was supposed to care for the ashes of my great aunt, and I've never seen her again since the package went in the mail.
I got this one. I was catfished in college. My roommate supplied details about my day to a secret admirer from whom I kept getting door mail. Wow, that's...
Ryan Plain said that. I have to admit, and I will. This is me purging my sins. After college in the late 90s, I went and worked for some Christian magazines. One was an alternative music magazine called Seven Ball. It doesn't exist anymore, but it was in the height of like the ska, Christian rock era, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the things they did, because this was like 98 to 2000 that I was there, pre-social media, really kind of early days of the internet. One of the things that they did is they had a page in the magazine called Pen Pals, and you would send in your mail, like your address, and like a little sentence about what you're into, what bands you're into, whatever. And then other fans of those bands could like write you, and you could like actually have literal pen pals. Okay. So after college, I'm there and I see this, and one month we didn't have enough to fill the page. So I decided to fake a few. And I put my ex-girlfriend in there, said she was super into ska and all this stuff, put her actual address. And other college friends too, that I thought it'd be a funny prank, forgot to tell them, because, with magazine publishing, you send it off to the printer and it's like a month later before people get it. Totally forgot about it. Didn't keep in touch with her. Found out from a mutual friend 6 months later that Sarah could not figure out why she was getting all these people who are ska fans like emailing her. Did I know anything about it? And I was like, oh my gosh, yes.
Doxed her.
Dude, I totally didn't know. I forgot. Version. I did it. It was great. It was the best prank ever because I totally forgot about it.
Villain,
ironically,
bro.
she got really into the OC Supertones after that.
Real big in the Supertones after that. Anyway, she was the most non-ska person ever.
That's awesome.
You're a villain. You are a villain.
Hey, that's the only time I've done it, and that was like, I thought it was funny. Jesse, have you ever pranked anybody?
Oh, I used to. I mean, I used to do it all the time. A lot of times the elaborate ones aren't the most funny. I remember one time, I think I told the story. I was in a work fantasy football league, and the one of the guys in the league was older. He was like so it was people you work with, so it's all ages. And he was like, hey, you guys got to chill with the message board post. The email address I use for this league is like the family email. And my wife is getting all, she doesn't want to keep getting all these fantasy emails. We're like, for one, just get your own email address. Yeah, like this isn't like the 90s where your household.
He got caught doing something online, and she's like, we have shared accounts now. You know what I'm saying?
I signed him up for so many cat media related emails. You'd be shocked at how many like cat magazines, how many pet care sites there villains. Are for cats. I mean, and then I would did it in waves too, because I didn't want him just to get all this cat email at once. It was like, I wanted him to unsubscribe, and then I'm going to find like 15 more unsubscribe, and it would go on. I mean, and I never confessed to it. I never even mentioned it.
That's the best
it was just
part.
The psychological thing of just knowing he's going to hit with the next wave of cat emails. He thought he unsubscribed, but they're just wave after wave after wave for the entire fantasy season. I like ones that I just lay my head at night and think about. I don't need the payoff personally.
Jesse, how long did it take you to sign up for all of the emails? Like, how committed did you have to be?
I would do it at night while watching TV. Like, it was very easy.
He's like mad at the family because of you, Jesse. Like, he's yelling at his wife and kids.
I had a spreadsheet of which ones I'd already signed up for.
I'm tired of these cat emails. I don't care about cats.
You did not have a spreadsheet.
I couldn't sign up for the same ones twice because they were already blocked. The other thing, I like somebody. I had friends in high school who would just do like weird pranks. Like they had a club called the Night Rangers, and they would just go do really weird pranks. Like they would buy like a straight up tree, and plant it in somebody's yard in the middle of the night. So when the person woke up, there's like a new tree like in their yard.
It was just that's a good harmless prank. That's the good stuff.
It was just, but it was very like they had a whole process, like 2 shovel guys, 1 guy with a tree, hurry up and just get out of there like 4:00 in the morning. And then when they come, there's a brand new tree right in the middle of the yard.
Amazing.
You know, it was just next level weird stuff.
Cameron, one of the ones that we both did was, and this is for anybody out there who goes to like a diner, there's something called Touch Tunes. And so Touch Tunes, basically you buy credits on your phone and you can send any song to play into the entire restaurant. And the cook was really upset because I kept playing Sweet Caroline. And I played it 9 times back to back. And people in the back, it was like late at night. So people in the back are like, ba, 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 you know, and everyone, he's just losing his mind. He punched the machine. He's trying to figure out how to unplug it. Nothing works. So those are like the harmless pranks I like to do as well.
I still literally, there's this hipster bar that my brother hangs out at a lot downtown. And we were hanging out there one night and I got the account set up. And so I randomly, if I know he's there, I'll send Creed to the jukebox and just awesome. Like a whole 30-minute set of Creed, which is the opposite of the scene of guys that are there.
Can you take?
It's great. Oh man, it's so many. I feel like we need to keep this one going and ask it again for real.
Yeah, let's follow it up.
Tell us again your best prank that you ever pulled or experienced. I know you have some youth group ones because like my youth group years, I pranked quite a bit. I would sneak out in the middle of the night and suds, fountains, teepee houses. We wrapped my youth pastor's house. I worked at a shipping warehouse. And so I got access to those big rolls of plastic wrap that they did their car in. And we wrapped his entire house in it. Like,
wow.
Like he couldn't open any of the doors or windows because it was completely plastic.
House?
The house.
Tragically, there was
running around it for like an hour and a half with friends. We had multiple rolls going. It was great.
You guys were probably dead laughing. I would have rang the doorbell just to see if they would like try to open the door.
It was like July 4th. It was like July 4th weekend. And so their neighborhood had a thing where like, I guess the HOA or whatever put little miniature American flags in at the front of everybody's yard. We drove around and picked them all up in the dark of night and planted them all in my youth pastor's yard. So it was like a field of American flags.
That's a good one. I like that one.
Very patriotic. I loved it. High school pranks. That was my love language. But hate it now as an adult. So don't prank me. All right. Hit us up on X at Relevant Podcast and tell us the best prank you've ever pulled or experienced. And we'll read them again on next week's show. Well, before we wrap things up, I'm going to thank John Mark Comer for joining us. Make sure to check out his new book, Practicing the Way. You can also find more of that conversation over at relevantmagazine.com. Speaking of relevantmagazine.com, while you're over there, make sure to check out issue 114 of Relevant. It is available now for free. It is presented by The Covenant, which is available now on Apple TV. The issue has a great cover story with Brooke Lidgerwood, but we also have Rainn Wilson, Mike Todd, Need to Breathe, so many artists, so many faith leaders, so many great topics. You can check it out. It's all free. If you want the beautifully enhanced designed edition that looked like our print magazine, but like multimedia version, it's part of Relevant Plus. You can sign up for Relevant Plus and get the enhanced magazine. You can also get an ad-free version of this podcast, ad-free unlimited reading at relevantmagazine.com, and more. Plans start as low as $2.50 a month. Go check it out. Click the Relevant Plus tab at relevantmagazine.com. All right, on that note, we'll wrap it. I'm Cameron Strang.
I'm Jesse Carey.
I'm Derek Miner.
I'm Marty.
We'll see you on Tuesday. Have a great weekend, everyone.
I signed him up for so many cat media related emails.
Relevant Podcast Network.